It's a bit of a mystery where the cattle came from. About 800 years ago, the king granted the family here a right to create a castle and crenellate. And with that came the right to create this park. And so they created the park. And the idea of the park was really to hold red deer. I mean, and the red deer were, well, they weren't sacred, but they were definitely a gift of the king. And if you went and killed or hunted a red deer without the permission of the king, it was going to go badly for you, and you're probably going to lose your life, possibly a few other bits on the way. And so to suddenly have this park for the family here, it was a big deal. And so they created the wall, and then at some stage they must have come and sort of shut all the gates or whatever they'd created, and they caught the red deer, but they also caught these cattle. And the mystery is, what were the cattle doing roaming around here when we know that cattle have been domesticated in this country for at least 5,000 years, possibly 6? So why were the cattle in the woods? No one really knows. The cattle have been here for about 800 years and more, and for the first few hundred years of their existence here, they served no agricultural purpose, really. What they were here for was hunting and to be hunted. So they needed them wild. Last thing you want if you're going out hunting an animal and trying to prove how tough and manly you are is something that's tame. You want something that's stroppy. So they kept them stroppy. They didn't allow any sort of domesticated breeds to get in amongst them. And even during the agricultural revolution, they did not interfere with them. They were lucky. There was a rather special man around here at the time called Bailey, who saw that these cattle were actually a sort of pure breed and should be kept that way. And for all he was a leading light in the agricultural revolution and improving breeds of sheep, cattle and pigs, he made sure that these cattle stayed pure. But on top of that, he persuaded the landowner that actually the cattle should be moved away from near the castle and put into this bit of ground up here. A special sort of wild area would be put aside for them. And so they turfed the farmer off who was here. They found another farm for him, and they pulled his house down, and they pulled his buildings down for what they were. I don't know, 200 years ago, probably not a lot. And they pulled all the fences down and levelled it all, and then they did all the planting that we can see. And the idea was to create this sort of natural environment for this herd of animals. And this is the only park in the country that was laid out for an animal. Currently there are 100 cattle here about, and there's another reserve herd up in the north of Scotland with about 25 or 30. And the idea is that at some stage, if ever these came to grief, the park could be restocked with a herd in the north. But these cattle are remarkably healthy. They get absolutely no medication at all. All we do as regards sort of interfering is giving them a little bit of hay in the winter, but not a huge amount. And they're tough, you know. These calves, like imagine a calf born in July, it'll get milk through the autumn. Probably around Christmas its mother will run out of milk. That calf will survive right through the winter on the little bit of hay it gets and picking. And I don't think any domestic breed could probably cope with that. And they're tough, they're good little grazers, and they're remarkably healthy. When it comes to breeding, as you can see, there are a lot of bulls here. In fact, half the cattle are males and half the cattle are females. Nothing is castrated. So when it comes to breeding, it's really left to the bigger, better bulls are the ones that do the breeding. But of course, because they're so inbred and they're virtually clones, there's not a huge difference in size between any of them. So most of them, they get to a certain age, they think they're top dog. And so we can have some really good ding-dong battles, and they sometimes last just a few seconds. Occasionally they last a whole afternoon. But it's a tough life being a bull. If you have love in your heart, you're going to have to work for it. And they get some scrapes, occasionally get some serious injuries, but they can really wear themselves out fighting and chasing the females around.